everyone. I'm Carlota Pico from the Content Mix, and I'm excited to be here today with Xenia Muntean, who is CEO and co-founder of Planable, which is a Techstars London accelerated marketing startup that she'll tell us more about very soon. And on top of that, she also has over 7 years of experience in marketing and communications. Welcome, Xenia, and thank you so much for joining us today on the Content Mix.
Hey, everyone. Thank you so much, Carlota, for having me on the show.
The pleasure is ours, Xenia. Well, I cannot wait to start picking your brains on the ins and outs of what it's like to be a female founder within the marketing space. But before we get to that, could you tell me a little bit about your background experience and how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, definitely happy to do that. So before Planable, I actually had a social media marketing agency. So I was in the world of social media marketing and advertising since my second year of university. I actually studied PR and mass communication, and I started my first business on the benches of my university. I was building lots of content for clients back home, lots of social media management, campaigns, branding, websites, all of that, everything digital marketing and content. And that's when I discovered one of the challenges that we're currently solving at Planable, which is the entire process of collaboration on content. I really did not enjoy working in spreadsheets and the entire back and forth of emails when you're trying to communicate around content, when you're trying to plan content, and when you're trying to coordinate the entire process of building and aligning yourself as a team around content. And that was a challenge that I discovered when I was working together with my team to produce content for my clients, but also when I was working with clients to get approvals and feedback from them. So I really did enjoy the process. I thought that we as marketers deserve a more pleasant way of working. And that's kind of how Planable got born, from this entire struggle that I had and just trying to solve my own problem. We developed Planable to help other marketers like myself to have a more productive way of working on content.
Okay, excellent. So what is Planable? Would you be able to give me your 30-second elevator pitch?
Yes, very Techstars style. So Planable is a collaboration tool for social media teams to work together on posts that they're planning for Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. So they have a very neat and very visual content calendar where they plan content, they can discuss, leave feedback on content, coordinate the content, and there's also an approval system. So it's an entire end-to-end workflow that helps social media teams get from an idea to publish.
Okay, excellent. Well, I can obviously tell that you're very passionate about marketing and social media in particular. And on top of that, you were also named as Forbes 30 Under 30. So could you tell me what makes you passionate about marketing and in particular about social media? Why is it so exciting?
Yeah, that's actually a very, very good question. It takes me back to my teenage years. I think I'm passionate about advertising long before I knew what advertising was. I was just, reading billboards on the street, and my mind was wandering on how could I improve them? How could I make them better? And I didn't know, anything about marketing and advertising. I was not labeling it so, but I remember that I always was attracted of like this part of commercial communication. I was also super passionate with design. I learned Photoshop in, I think, my 7th grade, and I really loved designing and the visual, the aesthetics of everything, the websites, the apps. I always was super attracted on how things look. And I think combined with the fact that I really enjoyed writing when I was very young, I think this combination of visual and writing made me a perfect candidate for the advertising world. And that's how my passion for this industry started.
Wow, okay. Your parents must be extremely proud. As a 7th grader, learning already how to design. Wow.
Well, don't think, too much about it. I wasn't designing anything, award-winning. I was just tinkering with it, but I really enjoyed it. Yeah, it was really fun. A good way to spend your summer.
Beautiful, beautifully put. I recently came across one of your past interviews in which you defined success as effectively transforming the marketing industry. So, could you elaborate more on that comment? How would you define the marketing industry today? And what would you like the future of marketing to look like?
Wow, that's an important question, I think, first of all, and quite a tough one. You got me there. I think the way I would define the marketing industry right now is transformative a bit. We're going through this revolution as a marketing industry, and especially, I think this was especially highlighted now during coronavirus and this entire pandemic that we're going through. People, marketers have started reevaluating everything they've been doing. So this is a very revolutionary time for us. A forced one. We didn't choose to do this revolution for ourselves, but we are asking lots and lots of questions about what should we do as marketers? What should success look like? What are the things that, the ROI? What should we prioritize as marketers? With this, with this pause on paid media, with this rise in content production, I think many of us and many brands out there have wished that they started producing content earlier than right now. So I think this is definitely a very, very, it's a milestone for us, for the industry. And, in a few years' time, we're going to look back and we're going to realize how monumental and historical this moment was for everyone. I hope that's going to be the change. I hope that things are actually going to make an impact for us. I think I can already feel that in the industry. I can already see how much more content is being prioritized, the production of content, and how much more marketers and brands are willing to jump into producing content at a very low level, very authentic, just with maybe with their iPhone and stuff like that. Content that looks very human and user made. I think that's something that we're seeing more and more, and I'm actually very excited about what this is going to bring new to the industry.
Okay, so then my next big question, Xenia, is how do you foresee Planable playing a role in that transformation?
Yeah, I love the question. I love that you're asking me that. So with more and more content, with this new demand of producing more content, you need a very solid way to work as a team. So your operations need to be bulletproof, because if things get stuck in your processes, you're not going to have the ability to move fast. And especially now, during this entire coronavirus pandemic that we're going through, you need to move super, super fast. You need to release content very fast. And if your operations are not solid, you're not going to be able to do that. You're going to be stuck in approvals. You're going to be stuck in finding files in some lost drive folder. So everything needs to be super, super organized, and you need to spend as little time as possible, because time is so much more of an essence right now. You need to be spending as little time as possible on just tedious tasks that could be automatized. So this is where Planable comes into the equation, because we do offer this very smooth and seamless workflow where teams can produce content, can produce posts for social with ease. The experience is very streamlined, so that really saves a lot of time in the process and allows you to build more and more content in the future.
Okay. And now looking at your role specifically as an entrepreneur, what have you learned during these very unstable and difficult times due to the health pandemic?
Yeah, I think just a lesson that is top of mind is always be prepared. It's just so important to expect the unexpected, and not get comfortable. I feel like you always need, as an entrepreneur, to be in this state of I don't know, alert almost, because you never know what can happen, and you might feel like things are going well, and then a pandemic, the most unexpected thing can happen, and it just flips your world, and it totally changes the way you operate. So you need to be prepared. Obviously, you can prepare for everything, but you can prepare yourself internally to be able to react to unexpected things with ease. So that's what I'm, talking when I'm saying, always be prepared. Always be prepared for unexpected things to happen. I guess that's the lesson I took from all of this.
Mm-hmm. As a former entrepreneur myself, as I mentioned while we were off the record, I know how hard it is to think about anything else but work, but your project, because that was a challenge that I used to face every single day. It would be a Saturday, a Sunday, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, and I'd still be thinking about my projects and about what I was doing. So looking back on your experience, what did you do to combat burnout, isolation, or anxiety?
Yeah, that's such a crucial and important thing in entrepreneurship. You need to find hobbies and alternative things to do with your life. And that was really hard for me, actually. That was one of my challenges, to just disconnect from the work that I'm doing. And also super hard to find anything else to excite me as much as Planable and what we're doing here. So I had to force myself into finding something to do that I loved. Recently, I go hiking quite a lot. We have beautiful mountains here in Romania, where I'm currently based, and it's lovely. It really takes your mind off everything, and it really gives you a perspective, being isolated and being, on top of the world. It just really gives you a different perspective on things. And everyone, needs to find their own thing, but it's just so crucial to find something to help you just clear up your mind from time to time.
Yeah, no, definitely. And it's not only good for mental health, I think it's also good for creativity because at least from my experience, when I was able to disconnect from the project that I was working on at that time, it was normally my most creative moments. So like that moment in time where I wasn't able, where I wasn't supposedly thinking about the project was actually the moments where I was the most creative that later on yielded the best pivoting strategies, especially when I was going through challenges.
Yeah, and that's because when you're at work, you are in the moment, you are in the details, you're in the project, so you're very, very extremely focused, and that's good. But when you disconnect, your mind just wanders and it goes to unexpected places that you wouldn't go normally on a work day. And that's, where creativity is actually hidden in those type of moments. So it really makes sense to me.
Mm-hmm. Well, as I mentioned as well off the record, I used to work in Ukraine. I was based in Kiev for a while, and I was running a PR campaign for the former government. And I want to ask you about former Soviet Union states. So you're originally from Moldova. As a female founder from a former Soviet Union state like Moldova, what career advice would you give to other women from a patriarchal society?
God, that's a tough one as well. I think just don't think about it. Just don't listen. Don't think about it. Don't internalize it. Just resistance, basically. I kind of managed to build some kind of resistance to things like that since I was very young. I don't know why, but I just couldn't, I heard all the things, all the, everything that you hear in societies like that, what, a woman is supposed to be doing. But it never stuck to me, lucky enough. It never stuck to me. I never took it in. Mm-hmm. So I think that's extremely crucial to just resist to those things, and not let them make an impact in what you are and what you can do, and build up your confidence. Like find ways, small wins, celebrate them all the time. I think confidence is extremely important, and that's societies that are very patriarchal, they do impact your confidence as a woman. So just focus on finding ways to build it up, and just never let go of what you want to do and the passions that you want to do, and don't listen to anybody,
Mhm.
basically.
Yeah. No, I love that advice. Always keep your purpose in mind and why you're doing something and just go for it. I mean,
Yeah.
the sky is the limit, or it's the stars or the moon, or wherever you want to put the limit, that's your limit,
Yeah.
regardless of what sex you are or where you're from.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Moving into a lighter subject, which we've already touched upon, obviously, because this is what Planable does. But as someone who lives and breathes social media every day, which social media campaigns have you admired lately and why? And obviously, feel free to zoom into one of your own campaigns.
Oh, that's a good question. So something that we built at Planable recently, not necessarily a social media campaign, but we recently had a series of webinars where we brought together marketers and we talked about what is happening in the industry. And I feel that the best campaigns out there are the ones that actually bring a lot of value to your audience, to your users, to the ones that are following you. And I think that's something that we've seen across the aisle during this entire period, during this entire pandemic, that the brands that people actually looked up to were the ones that provided very meaningful and very useful content that actually helps. That's the thing that people were looking after, information, something helpful, something reassuring, inspiration as well, of course, but utility, that was something that I noticed was most attracting to people right now. And I think that's something to keep in mind, that the best campaigns are the ones, like any product, right? A campaign is like a product. And it needs to be meaningful, and needs to speak to your audience, but more than anything, it just needs to provide value to your audience.
Mm-hmm. Xenia, what you're saying is music to my ears. For those of us watching our interview, they can just see me constantly nodding my head up and down because I couldn't agree more with what you're saying. Okay, we are moving into the last section of our interview, which will be your recommendations for our audience. We call it our rapid fire questions. So to get this section started off, I'd like to ask you about your source of inspiration. So an influencer or a professional role model that you admire.
That's a good question. Let me think a bit. So a source of inspiration for myself. So I don't usually follow personalities. I look at companies. Maybe that's because we're in the B2B industry, and I really look up at companies and what they're doing. And one company that is really, really inspiring for me today is Envision. That's a company in the design graphic space. They're building a collaboration app for designers. So that's very obvious why I love what they're doing. So I really look up to them. And they also built an entire remote team. So they're a huge company, but they're all remote, like 2,000 employees or how many they have. So that's they're in a lucky spot right now. And it really inspires me, the culture and what they built with the product. So that's the one I would go with.
Excellent. It actually reminds me of my days as an entrepreneur again. I was fortunate to attend South by Southwest. I was one of the pitch finalists. Well, my project was one of the pitch finalists, so I had to pitch in front of judges. Well, anyways, you, of course, can definitely relate to that. And during that experience, I was able to meet Guy Kawasaki,
Yes.
who is behind Canva, which is also
Yes.
a design platform.
Yeah, another company I love a lot. It's just extremely inspiring, and it's also inspiring because a woman CEO, Melanie Perkins, I think,
Mm-hmm.
super inspiring as well.
Definitely. Okay, and what about a book, a publication, or an event that you'd like to recommend?
So books or publications, I am going to be 100% honest with you. I don't really read business books here. I said it. It's out there now. I do not do that. I think that my life is so full with business. Just, the articles that I read and just the work, that I feel like when I read something, it just needs to be something else, science fiction and stuff like that. But in terms of events that I would recommend, one of my favorite ones is Cannes, which is not happening at this year, but it's just first time I attended Cannes Lions, it was mind blowing for me. Just the vastness of the event and how big it was and the type of people that were attending it. So yeah, if you can afford to attend it sometimes in the future when things get back to some kind of normal, that's the one I would recommend.
Mm-hmm. And you were on their innovation stage, right, in Cannes Lions 2018.
Yes, that's the first one when I attended it. I was very nervous. So
you not only attended it, but you were part of it.
Yeah, in a way. Yeah, so it was really an amazing experience for us.
Well, we'll have to link this podcast up to a video of you on stage as well, so that our audience is able to see you in action, which is always very fun.
Sounds good.
Okay, and today's last question will be, what's your favorite app at the moment and why?
Favorite app at the moment? I love that. I think it's Notion. I love Notion quite a lot. I discovered it about, I don't know, a year ago, and we recently started using it at Planable, and I love it because I use it for work, but I also use it for personal life, which is really great. It kind of just combines those two things together very nicely. And it's great. It's color coded. It's super organized. So yeah, I totally recommend Notion if you're a big, organizing and lists fan.
So what is Notion?
So it's so hard to describe. It's like a document, but at the same time, it's for taking notes, but it has so much more than taking notes. We use it as a company wiki. You can build pages and a bunch of other things, but it's really great.
Very cool. So it can serve for documentation as well, especially now during Corona times where everybody needs a company Bible.
Yes, and everyone, like our engineers use it for documenting the product as well. We use it for onboarding. We use it for a lot of things. So it's really great.
Amazing. Well, Xenia, thank you so much for joining us on the Content Mix. Those were great tips and insights. I loved meeting you, and I look forward to following the next steps of Planable.
Sounds great. Thank you so much for having me on the show. This was so fun.
The pleasure has been ours. And to everyone listening in, thank you so much for joining us on the Content Mix. For more perspectives on the content marketing industry in Europe, check out the Content Mix. We'll be releasing interviews just like this one, so keep on tuning in. Thanks again. See you next time and have a fabulous day. Bye.